It's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim, and that's my buddy Ryan in the middle of the screen. Rhino, good to see you, bud.
Good to see you, too.
Absolutely. And after looking at himself on TV, Zach decided he needed a meaningful change. He's buzzed it all off, but he's here. Coach Zach Nienaber, welcome to the pod again.
Good to be here, Tim.
Gentlemen, what a fun weekend. We had a chance to take our podcast big time. They put the bat signal up for us for the local cable company and said, we need the pod in the booth. And we had the opportunity for a little three-man football action on Friday night. I got to say, guys, I had a great time. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed working with you. It was really a fun performance.
And we're smashing all the view records, right?
Oh, we got 1,700 on YouTube as of right now. I think we've eclipsed that number, or at least gotten pretty close to it. So that's pretty good. I would say that's all right. I'm happy with that, considering their volleyball games get 300. So I'll take it. It's baby steps.
I'm surprised the volleyball game gets 300 views.
As in, they should get less or more? Or?
Less. I mean, you got to think, right? There's
there's 10 kids on the team, or whatever it is. Or
right.
50. Yeah, there's not a lot of bodies out there. And they actually draw pretty well. Kids go to those games. Like, they draw pretty well, actually. They have a good student section at those games. Good job by the volleyball team. I'm a big fan of that. So I'm calling a volleyball game actually this Wednesday, so I'm very excited about that. But we had a great time and got a great review this morning from the head coach over at my home school, and came back and said that he enjoyed the broadcast very much on replay, although he was dying to know more of what we thought of the bad forward pass call early, because he was irate about it still 3 days later. And so may have to talk him off the ledge here soon. It was a tough one for him to take, but it was a pretty bad call.
Yeah, that was a terrible call.
In the moment, I mean, the way they move, I can see it. It's tough because they don't have replay in high school, but it's just brutal.
When will we see replay in high school?
4 yard forward.
Yeah. When will we see replay in high school, Zach? Will we ever see replay in high school, you think?
I don't think so.
We got a full 40-second clock on TV. We got a full clock now. We used to not have a play clock. It used to just be the refs doing it. Now we got a play clock. Things seem to evolve, right? So maybe replay is the next step.
Yeah, I just don't think there's enough places that have their games televised with enough cameras.
That's true. They'd have to strike up a hell of a deal with somebody probably week to week. So it's interesting. But I do wonder if that'll ever happen even at the section level or something like that. We'll have to wait and see. But I think it's interesting. It's definitely a conversation worth having. But I had a great time. And like I said, the guys, they loved you. It was a success. Thank you guys for coming out and being a part of that with us. That was super fun. Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Before we get into the real nuts and bolts of the week, I know you're going all over Twitter. I just want to break it to you that Tom Brady does not throw the penalty flags. So, it is not Tom's fault that these penalties
want to do this now?
I'm just saying to you, you're sitting here, you trash me, you trash Tom, you go after everybody just because the referees make a call that you don't like. Tom doesn't throw the flags.
I didn't criticize Tom Brady.
It felt like you were coming after Tom, like you were coming in hot on Tom.
And I think maybe, Tim, this might take some reflection on your part to figure out why you feel that way, because I didn't mention Tom Brady at all. I didn't blame Tom Brady. I didn't even insinuate that Tom Brady was involved. I said that Jerome Boger should be put on ice. He should not be calling more games like this. And it was a BS call that extended a drive where Atlanta had done their job to get the ball back. It was a horrible, 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 horrible call. And when every single person that I hear agrees with that, tells me that I'm right. You're the only person. I've listened to 5 different shows that have talked about this. You are the only person.
That's why this podcast is as good as it is, because it's the esoteric approach that I like to take. Again, we cannot complain about the officials. That puts us one step away from Thunderdome. And Zach agrees with me. We got to have rules. We've got to have respect for authority.
They have rules. What is he supposed to do in that situation? It's a perfect form tackle. What is he supposed to do?
Well, he clearly slammed him. I mean, you saw it and I saw it. He clearly. On. I mean, it was a cane choke slam. I mean, it was.
You have got to be kidding me. How soft are we?
How much of it do you think was influenced by the Tua stuff?
Jerome Boger said it wasn't.
Well, he said it wasn't.
He also called that penalty, so I don't know how much we could really believe Jerome Boger. But the point is that he was warned about a bad roughing the passer call the week before against Josh Allen, or in favor of Josh Allen. He was warned. He was reminded of the rule and told that you cannot call that a penalty. And I just don't know how you come back in that situation with that tackle and call that penalty. It was horrible. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm not sitting here like it cost Atlanta the game.
You did say that, though. You did say it cost Atlanta the game.
It cost Atlanta the opportunity to win the game, which they earned on that stop. They earned it. They earned an opportunity, and that opportunity was taken from them.
It's one play. You had 60 minutes.
And one play can change a game.
No, you had 60 minutes. I'm not going to listen to that. No. It's a loser's lament.
Tim, you're wrong on this one.
We agree that we saw a pretty tough call in that high school football game. We just talked about it. Are you saying that one call changed the whole game? That one call changed. That was the whole reason. That was the reason they lost.
Certainly changed the tenor of the first quarter, but that's not my point on that. My point on that is it was a tough call. They had to adjust. This one there's no excuses in the NFL. You have guys in the booth who can call down and tell you to pick up that flag. You have guys on the field that could say that's not a roughing the passer call. You can't
do that.
System.
They're not going to do
that. You have a whole system of people that could stand up and say that should not be called a penalty in that moment, huddle with the referees and don't call it, and it still got called. There is no excuse in the NFL.
Do you think that personal fouls should be reviewable? Because I've heard that brought up a couple times.
No, I don't. Look, I don't like the idea of reviewing penalties because I think that it's.
Well, then we'll be there all goddamn night. I don't want to review all the penalties.
I do think that having somebody up in a booth that has a replay available in the moment, like a rules guy could call down and like they do for replays and say, you pick that flag up. There's no way we can enforce that. And
well, that's a review.
That is a review.
You're not taking 5 minutes to do it. Is my point.
How do we know that?
It's in the moment. Snap judgment. Was it a penalty? Should it be a penalty? That one. I mean, you could have called anyone in the league office and they would have told you no. Tony Dungy said so on Sunday night.
If Tony Dungy said so.
He called the league office and the league office read him the rule and it doesn't fit the rule.
Zach, where do you come down on this? Were you as aggrieved as the Falcons fans and Ryan and half the NFL?
I didn't even know what happened until this morning.
Oh yeah.
That's how disconnected I was from it all yesterday.
I don't believe Ryan was up in arms on his Twitter.
Also, I have zero interest in watching an Atlanta Falcons game this year.
They were eliminated, so we don't even care about it. But Ryan was.
I can't think of a team I would want to watch less.
I think this was just anti-Tom rhetoric.
I was watching on Red Zone, and Tim's going to go to Tucker Carlson on the bit here with the fake news and the pro Tom Brady stuff here. But let's be realistic. That was the worst call I've seen in a long time.
You're just so horrible. Anti-Tom, though. When it happens to Tom, here come all the memes. Here come all the things about, Tom gets preferential treatment from the officials. Bullshit. Like Aaron Rodgers doesn't get it. Like every other great quarterback in the history of the league doesn't get it.
I'm sitting here arguing the merits of the call, saying that there was no other way that he could have tackled him. It's literally how they coach guys to tackle quarterbacks. He did slam him a little bit. There was a little bit of a yank. There was a little bit of a yank.
Nope.
Post Aaron Rodgers, that's how they were told to tackle.
All right.
And I think that you are getting defensive because you're such a Tom Brady guy that you're just so pro Tom that everything that involves Tom Brady that's a mild criticism of the NFL is anti-Tom rhetoric. No, but we can move on.
I'm going to move on because, like I said, what you're proposing is anarchy, and it's Thunderdome, and I won't have it. I won't allow you to move the league to Thunderdome. I'm not having it. All right. Zach, I'm going to go to you since I just had a long diatribe with Ryan. I'm going to open with you on the first topic of the day. Matt Rhule, it broke this afternoon or this morning. You and I both saw it probably about the same time because we texted in the text thread at about the exact same moment. Matt Rhule fired this morning in Carolina an 11-27 record in 2+ seasons. He'll probably have a college job within a month, would be my guess. He's got a gigantic buyout. But they fired the D coordinator today. They fired everybody. Steve Wilkes takes over on an interim basis. So goody. Where are they at? Where do they go from here? Is there still enough talent here to salvage the operation?
Well, I think we've been talking about for a while that he was next up to be fired. It's he'll get a college job. The interesting thing is his money is offset, so that the Panthers still owe him, what is it, $49 million?
Yeah, it's quite a bit of money,
and they have to pay him for the rest of this year. But if he gets another job, if he goes back to college, whatever he gets paid is subtracted out of what they owe him. So he could go coach somewhere for $1 and still let the Panthers pay him, I guess.
Which would be pretty savvy if he says, "Hey, guess what? For the first 3 years, I won't take a dime. Like I'll work for nothing for 3 years." Oh man,
give me $100,000 for 3 years, and then then he'll probably get to college to say, but you also have to guarantee my next 3 years for.
Yeah, he's falling upward, isn't he? Like he is parlaying the money in a big time way. He's going to obviously get a big time college job, but it didn't work at the NFL level. Are we finally seeing sort of the end of going after the big time college coaches? Or as long as there's an owner with lots of money, they're going to be dazzled by college coaches? What do you see on that?
There'll still be guys who go after college coaches because we're also seeing the flip side of hiring. We talked about it last week. Hiring offensive coordinators who haven't called plays. And you end up with, guys who have no clue what they're doing, like in Denver.
Correct.
So there'll still be people who will try it. But I wasn't impressed with him to begin with. I'm like, okay, so you won at Temple and had Baylor decent. Like, I don't know. That just didn't jump off the page to me. But apparently that's enough to get you a job in Carolina.
Get you a 7-year deal, too, on top of it. Hey, Ryan, are you now finally prepared to acknowledge that college football is not hard to win at? Because, basically, you have to coach up 4 tough games a year. You get a bunch of tomato cans on the front end of the schedule. Matt Rhule got fat off of bad teams. And, problem is in the NFL, there are no tomato cans. Even the tomato cans aren't tomato cans.
I'm not even going to dignify that with a real response. Of course it's hard to win in college football. Of course it's hard to win in college football. It's a completely different game. I'll say that. And I think that anybody who has paid significant attention to both or who has seen both on the on the coaching side has said that it is a completely different game, right? Nick Saban said that. And he's arguably the best college coach of all time. Right. So at that level. I agree with you. There's a whole different dynamic. The recruiting thing makes things completely different. Now you have to deal with NIL. You're dealing with families as well as student athletes. There's a whole lot of variables there where you're not just dealing with agents and players and salary caps and personalities like you are in the NFL. I think that it's just a completely different job.
Zach, go ahead, Zach.
Let's make no mistake. He was fired because he completely butchered the quarterback position for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? He had 3 different shots with different guys and stunk with all of them.
Is that all his fault, though? Like, or is that more of an indictment on him, or is that an indictment on the fact that it was Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, and Baker Mayfield, and maybe those 3 guys just aren't very good? I mean, don't get me wrong. It might be a little bit of both, right? But I'm saying I don't know if, Belichick wins with these 3 guys. I don't know if Don Shula wins with these 3 guys. Like, the greatest coaches of all time may not win with these 3 guys. In fairness.
But who picked those guys?
That's true. I don't know.
Right?
I'm assuming it was him that picked these guys, right?
Right. And we get it. He didn't have the option to pick Patrick Mahomes, but he made some bad decisions.
Right.
And they're going to pay for those decisions now. What do you do if you're them? That whole situation is a hot mess.
Is there a part of you, Ryan, that says, now that you got Steve Wilkes in on an interim basis, you tank the rest of this year, maybe you trade CMC? I think it was you, Ryan, who did put that up in the text chain, that the Bills had inquired or whatever. That I don't know if there's any smoke to that, but I've heard that too. Do you fire sale right now? Try to get yourself bad. Try to get a high-end pick and take a quarterback in the first 3 picks?
I think that, if you're looking at teams like Carolina, is there anything to indicate that they have anyone on roster other than CMC who, A, has any value, or B, would be contributing in a team in a year or two that would be successful? And I think that...
Does McCaffrey even have value right now?
You're probably trading a third or fourth for him at this point. He's got talent, but he can't stay healthy.
A third or fourth? Wow.
It maybe not considering his contract, but just based on talent alone, I would think a third or fourth and what he brings to your offense. The guy is still really good when he has the ball in his hands. The problem is there's no one around him in Carolina.
Well, DJ Moore is a talented player, right?
The problem with DJ Moore is his value has been so tanked by Baker Mayfield and poor quarterback play this year that I'm not really sure you could get much for DJ Moore. But at the same time, there's got to be somebody who can offer him something, offer him a place in an offense. I know there were a lot of fans calling for Chicago to call about DJ Moore, and maybe try and trade for him. I think that if you're the Rams, you're a team that you need someone else that can challenge on the outside. DJ Moore would make a lot of sense, but regardless, the question as it was asked, if it were me, I'd dismantle it. Try and get as many picks as you can, get as many draft assets as you can, and just try and rebuild the thing. Because you don't have an answer at quarterback. Your offensive line still hasn't worked. Your defense is just okay. You don't have a ton of talent. And you're going to want to get out from under some of these contracts. So you take your dead money now when you're not good, and start acquiring rookies.
How about this, Zach? What about just riding it out for the year? What do you gain by firing early? What do you gain from it? And then continue with. I know you probably had another point there. Go ahead.
Well, I think what you gain is if you think there are other guys on your staff that might be the answer. Right, but I don't know that Steve Wilkes is the guy that I would interview.
No.
Yeah.
Or be interested in. The other part is maybe things were just so toxic there that they had to get away from. Right, because they didn't just fire the head coach; they fired the D coordinator too. There could have been multiple things going on there that we just didn't know about. I heard there was some frustration that there was not a lot of people in the stands. There was a lot of unsold tickets and a lot of 49ers fans there. But what is there to be optimistic about there?
Right.
They've kind of fumbled the bag here a few times, and I'll be honest. We talked about the quarterback situation, and I don't 100% know that Baker Mayfield's not good either.
Yeah,
because that situation was pretty poor, and that's not a good. It's a very unimaginative offense, and I'm not. His opportunities are obviously dwindling as well, but I don't know that this is a clear statement on him. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason you move on is you get somebody else calling plays, and maybe someone who's a little more innovative, and they're trying to find out if they can keep Baker Mayfield or not.
The owner also has deep pockets. So does this just open the door to say, look, I'm going to cut a big check for Rhule to have him go away. I'm going to cut another big check for Sean Payton or for some big NFL name in the next 2 months. Maybe get the jump start on that. Is that possibly the thought process here too, that you can get out front, you can maybe be the first guy in line in the Sean Payton sweepstakes? You don't think so, Zach?
I don't think Sean Payton's going there. Why would Sean Payton go there?
Same reason Matt Rhule went there, right? A lot of money?
That's kind of my thought too. I don't think Sean Payton's the kind of coach who takes a job mid-season.
Not mid-season, but maybe they line up for him and they say right on January, whatever, the end of the regular season, you're our guy. We're hiring you today.
I also think that by the end of the season there could be a significant opening on a more talented team where Sean Payton may be a candidate.
But would
he's
he get?
going to get it.
Go ahead.
He's going to get a significant amount of money wherever he goes.
Well, that's fair.
Money's basically going to be no object because he can get it anywhere.
But will he get control at a good team? Like, would they? Because I think that's part of this, right? Is that he would want control. A bad team like Carolina might be willing to say, like, go ahead, you pick the roster, you pick the talent, go ahead and cut who you want, add who you want, go down that road and do what you see fit. That's tempting to a guy.
I can see how it's tempting, but I don't know.
And that's kind of what Parcells did, and Peyton's kind of one of those guys. Parcells never went to ready-made teams. He'd go to bad teams and make them good because he'd get control. And that's what it was all about.
I also think that there's something to be said for the way that Sean Payton runs an offense. There is more talent in the organization than I'm thinking of for his style of play. And I think that he would immediately make them a Super Bowl contender. They're already a Super Bowl contender. But
you're doing a lot of secretive stuff here. What you're doing a lot of. Who do you think is quitting? Who do you what?
I think that Zach Taylor's going to end up fired in Cincinnati.
No, really.
I think that the fan base is soured on him. They see him. They
just went to a Super Bowl. How could they possibly be sour?
It's his play calling.
Yeah.
I don't think they feel he's aggressive enough with Joe Burrow. I don't think that they feel that he's creative. I think that there's a lot to the idea that if you had Sean Payton coaching that team, that Joe Burrow and Drew Brees are fairly similar quarterbacks in the way that they play, and that the talent around them is very similar to what he had in New Orleans. And I think that he would be that would be a very enticing job for him. So I think he may wait and weigh his options. I also think that there's a better fit for Carolina if you're looking for a culture change, which it sounds like the owner has talked about. I think DeMeco Ryans would be a great option in Carolina. But the fans thing is an interesting point that Zach brings up, because I really do think that in Carolina, in a lot of those southern states, you're competing against college football for interest. And if you're not winning and you're not winning consistently, your fans are going to go away quickly because there's more things that they can watch more readily. So you've got to find somebody who can make it exciting, who can kind of hit that button a little bit, who can kind of play to that idea. And I think DeMeco Ryans does a great job of that. Sean Payton would too, but I just think there's another team up there that's a better fit for Sean Payton.
How about this? Zach Taylor is a good coach. Zach Taylor is not a good play caller.
That might be the case.
I mean, he's got to get some credit for the Super Bowl run. Like, I think they vastly.
I just think he's a good coach. Yeah. He's a good head coach, but he's maybe not the guy I want calling all the plays.
That might be true too. That's a fair conversation. That brings me to the next piece that I wanted to hit on. That's good Carolina Panther fan line there. That was pretty good. Good job on that one, guys. I think the Super Bowl hangover thing is real this year when I look at both the Rams and the Bengals. Like, these look like two teams that clearly put everything they had into last season. They're not the same squads this year. Rightfully so. Obviously, you lose players. I know in the case of the Rams, they were top heavy and they lost some big time pieces and they haven't been able to fill in those blanks. But both those teams, to me, after yesterday, kind of looking at the eye test, I think both those teams are not factors. Like we until further notice, they're out as far as I'm concerned, as far as like serious contenders to get to the playoffs and make a run. Zach, I'll start with you. Do you agree?
I don't know if it's the Super Bowl hangover being a thing as much as it is, like we said, like the Rams have lost some people. And I don't know that the Bengals were as good as I think they overachieved last year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what were they seeing going into the playoffs, right? They weren't even – right? They had to go on the road and win a couple games, and we didn't think the Bengals were the best team in the AFC starting this season.
No, that's true.
Right? We didn't think there's probably a couple teams we had in front of them. So I think they're just they are what we thought they would be. Right? And I don't think they're going to end up below 500, but I don't think they're going to be, the 1 seed either.
That's fair.
Tim and I talked about this last year too, where, we kind of thought that the Bengals felt like a good team that was a couple of years away from being a really great team. They kind of got there too soon. Now, I still have issues with the play calling. I've been clear about that, but I think that they're a really talented team. I think that it's two different problems for two different teams, right? Obviously, the Rams lost a lot. I think that, especially along their offensive line, they've had a number of problems this season. They just cannot protect Matt Stafford. He's on pace to take 71 sacks this year.
Yeah,
and for a guy his age, that's an incredible amount of hits to take. You cannot sustain that as an offense. I also think, as I said, I think that they're really missing a playmaker. They can't take the top off the defense like they could a year ago. The defenses don't have to respect the deep ball, and even if they did, they don't have time to throw the deep ball. But I really do think it's a series of two different issues. I think that Cincinnati is closer than LA, if I had to say right now. I mean, Cincinnati is losing close games, right? And they have talent to keep up. They lost last night to the best kicker in NFL history, just based on talent at this point. I mean, he has a great record. If you get him to midfield, he can make a kick. That's tough to beat in a close game, right? And you miss the couple of field goals that they did. They didn't take the points in a couple of situations where they should have, and it cost them. And that, to me, is a coaching decision. I think that was a poor decision in a close game where that it could come down to a field goal. You take the points in that, and they didn't, and they lost. So I do think that they're going to keep getting better. I like Cincinnati's talent. I just don't think that they're there yet, and I think the Rams are just a different team than they were a year ago.
How many of them make the playoffs? Both? Neither? One?
I say if someone's going to make it, it's going to be Cincinnati. But right now, I think the conference is too strong. I think Cincinnati will be on the bubble. But
so you're saying neither?
I think it's possible. I don't think LA is going to get there. Not at this level. They're not good enough at this point to make the playoffs. And I think Cincinnati's good enough to make the playoffs, but the conference is so tough that I don't think they will.
Interesting. Do you think that Stafford is more hurt than we think, or do you think there's something, I mean, beyond just the receiver stuff? Because you can't tell me that it's all about OBJ. That, they don't have OBJ and Whitworth, and that's the whole thing. And Van Jefferson, I get that he's hurt too. But I'm wondering if there's not something seriously up with, like the Stafford elbow thing might be something they're not talking about, but I feel like it's there. Don't you feel like that? I mean, Zach, to a certain degree, do you feel like there's got to be something more to the Rams thing than what we're seeing?
I think that this is who he is, right? I mean, he threw a bunch of interceptions last year too.
That's true.
He got hot at the end. I just think last year's Super Bowl was an aberration
on both sides, probably, right?
On both sides, yeah. And that happens sometimes.
Yeah. Last guy standing, you catch a good matchup. Oh, the baby's in the background of the podcast now. Look at that. I can see him back there. Look at the big guy. Fantastic. All right. Zach, Ryan, I'm going to introduce to you a brand new segment. I like to call this Dr. Z and Dr. R's Diagnosis. I'll find a better name for it at some point. But you guys are my two football doctors. I'm going to throw some teams at you. I want you to kind of diagnose the problem, and then how do we fix it? So I'm bringing the patient in. Dr. Zach, I'll start with Dr. Zach, and Dr. Ryan can participate on all the teams, but I'll start with you, Dr. Zach. I'm going to bring in this first patient. I want you to tell me what the problem is and how do we fix it. I will start with I'm bringing in the Denver Broncos, maybe specifically Russell Wilson. When you take a look at him, what do you see here as the problem? Diagnose what's happened to him and to the team, and how do we get back on track?
Russ's abilities were masked by a really good defense and run game for a long time in Seattle. And now we're seeing him in a situation that he doesn't have that run game, and he doesn't have Pete Carroll. And we're seeing that he's just not good enough to overcome those things right now at this age.
The game where we last saw the patient, Doctor, it was maybe the worst offensive display of football we've ever seen in the history. And the next patient's coming in was around in that same incident. So I'll be bringing that patient along shortly for Dr. Ryan and Dr. Zach. But this patient, I mean, it was as awful a crime scene as we've ever seen. Is there a way for this to be salvageable? Can you kind of forecast a way to turn this around? Do you see a way out, or is this a terminal situation?
Well, thank God we had a varsity football game Thursday night and didn't have to struggle through that. I don't know. Let me say it this way. It's not terminal, but it's not going to get much better. I think he's going to have to live with this the rest of his career.
Oh, gosh, this is going to be heartbreaking to the patient's family. I'm going to have to go step back out and tell this news to the Wilson family and the Broncos and the new Walmart ownership group. They're going to be heartbroken to hear this news. But who knows? We'll see where they go from here. Dr. Ryan, and he's working currently in the OBGYN new baby infant unit. But if you could take a minute here, Dr. Ryan, and answer me this one. I'm bringing in a patient for you as well. Let me see if you're ready for this, because this is from your hometown. This is from your hometown. This is the Indianapolis Colts I'm bringing in to you, Doctor. And they somehow have a 2-2-1 record. And so there's masking problems right now, but underneath it appears that there are some real underlying symptoms of some really potentially serious medical conditions. I'm wondering, what are you seeing in your diagnosis, and how can we? How does this patient have a chance?
I'm going to say no. I think that at this point it's just about quality of life for them. So you have a case of just a terminally old quarterback. I'm concerned that he can't throw the ball more than 30 yards at this point. He is
8
not
years younger than Tom Brady. Can I point that to you? Like, he's like eight full years younger, and yet you call him terminally old.
He is clearly not as talented as Tom Brady. Zach was right about Matt Ryan. He was right about Matt Ryan in Atlanta. We fought him on it. I apologize to Dr. Zach for that diagnosis. Gave it my second opinion. I was wrong. You're missing your biggest playmaker in Jonathan Taylor.
Who might stink actually this year. He hasn't been very good. Like, I don't know. It might be over.
That was going to get to my second point, which is your offensive line has not been strong. They've not been able to move the line of scrimmage the way that they have before. They've not been able to control the ball the way that they have before. And defensively, they've had a couple of injuries. Everybody has to deal with injuries. It's not really an excuse for them, but they need to step up on defense. They've not done it so far, and I think that moving forward, your schedule's tough enough that it's a concern. They're not stopping big plays. They're not able to get off the field, and those are major issues for a team that has trouble scoring. So. You have to do one or the other. You'd ideally do both, and I think unfortunately that this is probably the end of the line.
So we need to keep them comfortable, is what you're basically saying.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate that, and I'll go out and tell the family of the Indianapolis Colts. I'm sure that they're gonna want to know what to do going forward. Maybe set up some hospice care for Matt Ryan here, and we'll get that set up. That'll be great. Thank you, Dr. Zach. This patient was last seen in a brutal beatdown last Sunday, just a victim of a tremendous ambush in Buffalo. I'm bringing you the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're obviously once a very proud, this is a very proud patient. Doesn't think that they need to go to the doctor very much to get help, but it's very clear that they're in need of some. So please, can you talk the Pittsburgh Steelers into some work here?
I think this is the first step would be a offensive coordinator removal.
Oof, that's a serious surgery. That's a big surgery.
I just think that Matt Canada is not the guy. And if that doesn't work, then I would recommend a removal of the head coach.
Whoa.
And I know that might be hard for a lot of people to hear, because we talk about all the good seasons that he's had, and he's never been below 500 and all of those things. But at some point, the message just becomes stale. And he's been there for a long time.
Sure has.
And we've talked about some of his shall we say, lack of control in the locker room and things like that. And I just think it's coming up to boil. So I think the first step is remove the offensive coordinator, and if that doesn't work, then you got to go to the top.
The word was they switched medications and went to the new Kenny Pickett prescription, thinking that was going to solve the puzzle on the whole Mitch Trubisky quarterback issue. Come to find out, again, and we talked about this last week, that might have been a little premature to go right to the rookie quarterback and throw him right in the Lions' den in Buffalo. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense, and he got absolutely destroyed up there. Felt like the wrong move. In hindsight, do you think, I mean, we thought that then. Do we still think that way? Or, throw him in there, let him see what he could do?
They should have gotten to it a week earlier.
A week earlier?
Yeah. And he would have had 10 days going into the previous week.
Right.
To prepare for not Buffalo. So,
right.
Ryan, your thoughts on the current roughing the passer call?
I didn't see it. I'm sorry. This kid will not go down.
This one was a strip sack, and they called the body weight rule on him. But I don't know what you want guys to do here.
I don't know.
I do understand that. Like I do think that the Rodgers injury created this rule. And I think it's a lot like the Teddy Bridgewater thing that happened. We'll get back to the doctor's diagnosis in just a second. But the doctors, I think, out of an abundance of caution, took Teddy out of the game after, even the doctors cleared him on the sidelines, but they couldn't take those chances if they were Miami, and they kind of forfeited a game basically because of that. It's kind of like they went the other way completely here.
They're going to be running out the third string quarterback again next week.
If you are holding the ball, other than maybe taking out the knees, which I can see, you really shouldn't have that many protections. I don't think. The reasonable expectation should be that you're going to get tackled.
Yeah, I and the problem is too, right? And they've talked about this too with the wide receivers, is that, well, we don't want guys hitting people in the head.
Yep,
so
I
then
agree.
People are going low. And then all the wide receivers are mad because people are hitting them in their knees. And there's too many protections afforded to the quarterbacks. And I understand why they say they're doing it. But again,
because nobody wants to watch the second string quarterback play. They want the main guy be upright. I mean, that's important.
But then protect him.
Yeah.
I know we're off topic here, but at some point, these are adult men who have accepted the risk of the game. Why do we need to continue to try to protect them from themselves?
Because that's the NFL's product. The product is not on a Thursday night game. People don't want to watch Kyle Trask.
We're not talking about the world's filthiest hits here. We're talking about tackling. You want to know why nobody wants to grow up playing defense anymore? This is why. What are they supposed to do?
I will say there will be a comeback to this, don't you think, Zach, at some point? Because you are over-legislated, and at some point those competition committees, which are made up of coaches, are going to stand up and say, yeah, we got to go the other way on that. But the problem is that it's mostly offensive coaches getting hired.
Like you said, Ryan, they need to get back to if you're holding on to the ball, right? I'm fine if you want to have rules about hitting the guy in the head.
Right, defenseless receivers, all that makes sense to me, right?
But if you're getting tackled, you're getting tackled. Like I don't know.
I'm sorry about your knees, right? And I say that as a guy who has a knee injury in this. Like, sorry about your knees, but that's the trade-off. It's your head or your legs, and I think you'd rather recover from a knee injury than have a ton of head injuries at the end of your career. That's the trade-off. It's
a great question, doctors. I do appreciate the emergency diagnosis on this. I really do appreciate you coming in, Ryan. I do have to ask you this question though, doctor, because I can't bring it to Dr. Zach. I think he's a little too close to this patient. Might be a conflict of interest.
Oh no.
Yeah. So this patient was on vacation in London. And I think and caught a bad case of choked on something late and really struggled. I'm very concerned about them going forward. They might have some esophageal long-term issues, ramifications for losing to the Giants. The Green Bay Packers are here in a game that they really should have won, but there are some concerns when looking at this team. I'm just wondering if are they okay? Is everything fine? Is it much ado about nothing? Am I just an over-concerned parent?
I think that there's going to be a lot of talk about relax out of this, right? That still building chemistry with receivers, still trying to figure out the balance between run and pass a little bit. I know that there was some consternation in the locker room about what was called in certain situations and who believes they could get those yards. But the fact of the matter is you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. You've got a really good coach. You'd like to think that these things could get worked out, but we are 5 weeks into the season, and the problems are what they are. And they'll either get fixed or they won't. And at this point, we're just kind of waiting to see if they can resolve them themselves. There's no real diagnosis to say X, Y, or Z needs to get fixed. I mean, obviously, there's some people who need to play better. There's some things that need to do better, but no one change is going to fix the problems that are happening in Green Bay right now. It's just a matter of lack of team gelling and lack of time together, I think.
Dr. Zach, are you concerned about? Is that a fair diagnosis, or is there stuff that you're concerned about? I guess I should bring you in a little bit.
I'm concerned about the plays that are being run on the field.
But you had great faith in the coach's play calling before. Is there something slipping here?
I didn't say I had a problem with the play calls. Oh. I said I had a problem with the plays being run on the field.
Oh, okay. You're right. There is a difference there.
You think the plays are changing between the huddle and the line?
I think it's definitely a question that needs to be asked, at least internally. Like, I don't need an answer to it.
Well, you are an owner.
But I think they need to reflect on it. Here's the deal. For a long time, Aaron Rodgers has lined up and made a living. You know, if he's got the numbers in the pass game, he throws it. If he's got the numbers in the run game, he runs it. But the problem is he might still have the numbers in the pass game right now, but he doesn't have guys that are winning in those one-on-one battles. It's putting his team in a tough spot.
Yeah.
So I think that they need to maybe look at that a little bit and see where they can improve in those aspects.
I also think that perhaps there are parts of his game this year that are not as sharp as they have been.
And some of that's when you're throwing to Romeo Doubs,
I don't think Romeo Doubs is a bad receiver. I think Romeo Doubs is a rookie.
No, but he's a young receiver. That's what I mean. He's not there yet.
I think that the talent is clearly there. You just need time and trust. But if I'm looking at the game on Sunday, there were throws there that you look 3 years ago, he makes them at like a 75-80% clip. I mean, he's not one of these guys that misses deep, and he's missing deep balls, and that's not something that Aaron Rodgers usually does. So, I mean, obviously there's questions about, stepping up into the pocket and the structure of the offensive line ahead of him and the protections. How much pressure is he really under? What's he feeling, and where is he feeling it from? That can affect your throw. But I mean, there were at least two that I can think of off the top of my head that he should have hit that were completable that didn't get completed, that he would have completed even last year. And that's a concern, I think, moving forward, that if that stays a problem, then you're really going to be in trouble if you're Green Bay.
We'll keep an eye on that one for sure. Thank you for your thoughts, Doctor. Last one. I can't go to Dr. Ryan because he's also too close to this. So, Dr. Zach, I'm going to give you an opportunity to look at this patient. This patient looked to be improving, looked to be getting healthy, heading into the fall. It appears to be a serious regression, and concerned about its long-term future. The Detroit Lions have been brought in to see you, Dr. Nienaber.
Where do I begin?
This patient is riddled with cancer.
This reminds me of the episode of The Simpsons when Mr. Burns goes in for a checkup and he's like, "Oh, I'm the healthiest man alive," and they're like, "No, you actually have every disease possible." But it's the Three Stooges theory when they all can't get through the door at once. They seem to have everything, right? They're not very good defensively. I don't think they're well coached, right? You can put them on Hard Knocks all you want and get all these charming little one-liners, He's not a good coach. He wasn't a good coach when they hired him. We thought it was a goofy hire to begin with.
We did think it was a goofy hire. In fairness, our first instinct was probably correct.
Chewing glass and all that stuff, and and the quarterback's not that good.
Yes, that's true. Dr. Ryan wanted to like him so badly, though. Dr. Ryan really wanted this to be the right thing.
My father-in-law had a theory, and I'm wondering if it's true. You can only do so much cocaine before it really starts to affect your mind.
Are you suggesting you've done cocaine?
Well, not me. Not me. You start talking about biting kneecaps and eating broken glass like that. That's wild. But you go for it on 4th down 6 times in Foxborough. That's beyond. That's a bananas. That's stupid.
And they couldn't stop Bailey Zappi. Zappi went 17 to 21.
Something called Bailey Zappi.
Looked pretty damn good to me.
Just atrocious.
Okay, so we talked about doing the Vikings game. They went for it a bunch of times, and it worked out the first couple.
Yep.
But then he had no nuance. He was just like, well, we're just going to go for it every time.
And after the game, he said, I should have gone for it again. I should have gone for it again. I just inexplicable that's like you. Tim hates the analytics guys.
I hate the analytics guys.
This is the other side of that. This is the forget the numbers. We're going. I think that arguably the only one that was worse didn't end up losing the game for them, but my goodness, how do you defend what
that is correct?
Brandon Staley did in L.A.
I don't like guys that go 35 and a 50, and I also don't like guys that go 110 and a 50. You're right. I don't like either of those guys, and that's what Dan Campbell and Brandon Staley are. Any other thoughts, Doctor, on this team, or are we okay to close the session here?
No, I shut it down.
I think Dr. Zach wants to be done talking about the Detroit Lions.
All right, all the patients have to go home tonight. Urgent care is over. Thank you. We're going to call it that. Urgent care with Dr. Z and Dr. Ryan. Thank you very much for your time tonight on that one. All right, time for the team challenge. Can we get a quick update on where we are in the standings, the season-long race, and the NFL team challenge?
Yeah, Ryan, do you have it, or do you want me to pull it up?
I've got it up right here.
Yeah, go for it.
As of right now, with the results of this game pending, so if the Raiders win, I'll get a point. If the Chiefs win, Zach will get a point. Currently, I am in the lead with 27 points.
Wow, big surge!
Surged ahead the last 2 weeks.
Holy cow!
Zach is in second with 25.5, and Tim, you are at 22.5.
Well, things have gone south quickly for me.
A little bit of a swing the last couple of weeks.
From outhouse to penthouse for you, huh?
Well, I think we'd all agree that certainly there's a handful of teams on my list that we thought would be better than they have been so far. That they just a little bit of underperforming, especially from teams like Baltimore. They lost a couple of those close games. Obviously, I was raising concerns about them on the podcast last week.
Yeah, are you ready to apologize? Let's bring back the apology segment. Are you ready to apologize to Baltimore?
I don't know that I'm ready to apologize to Baltimore yet, but it certainly looked better last night.
By the way, I do have to apologize to Robert Saleh. Zach asked me in the text thread if I was ready to apologize to Robert Saleh. Tentatively, I'm going to apologize to Robert Saleh. You're 3-2. Good job. You got nothing to apologize for. You're definitely getting better. I like Zach Wilson. It's a tentative apology. Thank you.
And let's pump the brakes here for a moment on, Ryan getting a little full of himself in first place. He's got 7 wins from the Jets and the Giants, which were his last 2 picks. So it's not like,
He's getting.
I'll say again, I switched out my Seahawks pick for the Giants.
It's looking good right now. Definitely looking good. And again, Brian Daboll, weird, a guy who actually calls plays, has experience in calling plays, shows up and knows how to run a team right away from the beginning. Give him credit. Maybe that's what Zach's kind of going for with this bald head and kind of this kind of beard thing he's trying to grow. He's trying to channel his inner Brian Dable. I like it. I like that move, Zach. It's good. All right. Time for the prediction segment. Heading into this week, Zach and I are 13-7. We are doing pretty well for ourselves. Ryan had a good week, though. He's catching back up. He's back to 500, 10-10. Congratulations.
Started rough at the beginning of the year here.
But you're coming on strong. 2 solid weeks in a row. Well done by you.
Thank
All right. Well, we all got the Green Bay wrong last week, so we're going to get a chance to redeem ourselves here. First one out of the blocks, Zach, I'll give it to you. The New York Jets are at Green Bay. Green Bay is 7-point favorites heading into this game. And Green Bay is coming back home, though, from the long flight home from London. That doesn't seem like it affected the Vikings too terribly much. They came out with maybe their best offensive first half we've seen. Of course, didn't finish it because that's kind of the Vikings' MO. But Green Bay, 7-point favorites against the Jets. This Jets team's 3-2 and feeling good.
I'll take Green Bay to win, but the Jets to cover.
Okay. Green Bay to win, Jets to cover. Got it. Ryan.
I'm going to take the same. The Jets look like a totally different team with Zach Wilson playing.
Well, he's got all that youthful exuberance. And then
he's got plenty of maternal support.
That big D energy he's got there. You can't dispute that at all. He's a swordsman.
Everybody's mothers seem to love him.
Mothers love Zach Wilson. That is true. Maybe all the Packers' mothers. They'll show up to the game and he's dazzling them. It's very impressive.
He shows up.
Will Giselle be in attendance?
That would be hilarious.
Oh, stop that.
No, she's hanging out with AB.
Stop that. You stop that right now. That is unacceptable. I will not take it. Again, it's just constant slandering of Tom that I just will not accept in this house.
I don't see how that's slandering Tom. I just...
That's his wife. Just because you...
soon to be expert.
Antonio Brown and his third leg, that are just hanging there letting it fly around out there in Dubai. I got to tell you, he's like he's not arrested out there.
The rumor was that she wasn't getting enough at home. So, not satisfied. AB moving in starts to make a little sense.
How do we not know that Tom is not a man of exquisite passion, but just not during football season? Maybe he's trying to maybe he's got to save it. He's got to save it up. Haven't you ever seen Bull Durham? Maybe he's like Nuke LaLoosh.
The man is practically aroused by game film and working it. I don't think that excellence translates when you're with a supermodel.
I will not have
not saying. I'll take the Jets to cover.
All right, I'm gonna also take the. I'm gonna take Green Bay to win, Jets cover as well. I think this is a close game. I think the Green Bay Packers win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 24-21 game. And again, I'm not seeing Green Bay blowing anybody out. Right? You just don't see. And I could be totally wrong. This week, the NFL always surprises me. It seems like every week there's something that takes me by surprise. Maybe this is the week Green Bay puts a 35-3 on somebody. I don't see it. I think they're going to be in a lot of tight games all year. And they're going to win a lot of them, but I think they're going to be in a lot of them too. All right, next one. The Minnesota Vikings are 3-point favorites on the road against the Miami Dolphins. They could be on a third quarterback named Skylar Thompson, Ryan. But this is a tough game. You're still going on the road. You're still going to Florida. It's still weird. It's always weird to go play there. Your thoughts?
I think that Skylar Thompson, if he plays, it's obviously a big deal for Miami. You'd like to have Teddy Bridgewater out there healthy or Tua. I don't think you'll get Tua back yet this week, but
they're not going to get Teddy because with the new protocol they put in, Teddy can't even practice till Thursday, and that has to be no contact.
Yeah, you're probably right. So it's probably Skylar Thompson then. Arguably a bigger issue for Miami is you're missing your top cornerback in Xavier Howard to get with Justin Jefferson coming to town. You don't have Miami's pass rush. I don't think is phenomenal. You've watched them play. They don't really get a ton of pressure. They kind of relied on good coverage to get a lot of pressure previously. And you might be missing Tyreek Hill as well. He had a foot injury. He was in a boot after the game.
Are you saying Coach Piccoli can't coach these guys up? What are you talking about?
It's a lot of talent to be missing. The other side of this is I don't trust the Minnesota Vikings at all. I love them. They're my favorite team. The minute you start trusting the Vikings is the minute you're going to be disappointed. So I'm going to take the Vikings to cover a 3-point margin. I think they win, but I don't trust it.
Got it. You said Vikes by 30?
Vikings by 30.
Not a lot of faith in Coach Spicoli, but you know what? I got to agree with you. I think Miami is in real trouble. I told you this. I said last week, I don't think you're going to see Tua for a month. I'd be surprised if you don't see him until November. Maybe that's premature. Maybe he'll be back in a couple of weeks, but I don't know about that. Like, I'm not prepared to say that. We haven't heard from him, seen him. There's been no movement on that. I still think he's at minimum 2 weeks away for when we see Tua again. I think it's going to be quite a while. Give me Minnesota to win this game and cover, probably win by 4. It doesn't seem like they can blow anybody out. I don't think they can, and we'll see how they do with this one. But give me Minnesota to win it. Baltimore is 5.5-point favorites on the road against the New York Giants. The surprising 4-1 New York Giants, which, again, Zach, they looked so feeble in the first quarter. They had no wide receivers. They had nobody to throw to. It didn't look like they could move the ball. Then all of a sudden, Daniel Jones is unbeatable in the fourth quarter of that game against the Packers. Which Giants team am I looking at?
Will Ryan rank them this week? I think Baltimore wins and covers here. The glass slipper is about up here. We're gonna hit midnight on the Giants.
Brian?
I'm going to take Baltimore to win and cover. I just think that they're just too much for the Giants. I think that it's really hard to stop this Ravens offense anyway. They're going to get a little healthier and get their top receiver back. The Giants, I think, are a really well coached team. They're maybe not as talented, but they're certainly well coached, and that's accounts for a lot. I just don't see it working this week.
Kind of have to agree with you. I know we don't like to always agree on these things, but I think Baltimore's really good. I continue to say that. Zach and I have been on the Baltimore train from the beginning. And, yeah, they had to squeak one out against Cincinnati, but they always are going to, right? Those division games are tough. And Lamar Jackson, just when they need to get a big first down, Lamar Jackson can go get it because he can get it with his legs. And it's such an advantage. It's such an advantage. And Daniel Jones can do the same thing. He's not been as bad as I think people want to rip Daniel Jones for. I actually think he's given them a chance in a lot of these games this year with his legs. Been really impressed with him. But give me Baltimore to win this game. And I think they win it by 10 points. So I like that one. Probably the best. There's two really high marquee games. This might be the best one. It's obviously Buffalo versus Kansas City on the road. 1.5-point favorites for the Buffalo Bills. They're 4-1. They're pretty incredible. Where are we at with this one? Let's go to Ryan. Or Zach, go ahead. Go ahead. Go first.
I was going to say I have to go Buffalo again. That was pretty impressive what they did last week. And we understand that Pittsburgh is having their limitations and might show up in the Eliminator this week. But I like what they're doing. And I think we've seen even tonight, right? The Chiefs are struggling a little bit at home against the Raiders. So I'm going to take Buffalo.
Ryan.
If you can get pressure on Patrick Mahomes, it becomes a whole lot easier to win. I'm going to take Buffalo here.
Yeah, this might be a week where we all just push because I until further notice, Buffalo is the best team in the league, I think, and I got to see something different before somebody can prove me otherwise. So I will say this: if Kansas City can play, if they can come from behind tonight and beat the Raiders, and be 4-1 heading into that game, and they've got a little momentum, they're the home team. If they win that game, I think that's a big statement because Buffalo is really, really good, like really good, and I would be impressed with that. But I got to see it first. Buffalo's the champs. It's kind of like to be the man, you got to beat the man. I think Buffalo's the man right now. I think they're the best team. They've played the toughest schedule. And this is the last of the tough games, right, Ryan? If we remembered that schedule, it was the first 6 weeks were really tough. And then things get a little easy for Buffalo for a couple weeks after that. So if you can come out of this stretch 5-1, you're rolling, right?
Wow.
Oh,
you get Green Bay at home after the bye, which I'm sorry, Zach. I don't think Green Bay's beating Buffalo right now. Certainly not on the road after Buffalo's bye.
I'm just saying the disrespect calling it easier now.
No, easier.
I'm gonna write that one down, Tim. I'm gonna write that one down.
Easier, not easy, but easier.
We also said that before we saw the resurgence of the Jets a little bit. Then you host Minnesota, which should be a win.
Well, they're going to kick Minnesota's ass at home. Let's be clear. They're going to beat Minnesota by 2 scores at least at home. Just saying.
I mean, I don't want to go through all their schedule, but after that, then you go to Detroit. It's
all right.
I don't want to say it's easy. But it's,
16. Well, I'm not ready to go there yet. I definitely think they could lose in Kansas City. I definitely think they can. Right? Especially if Kansas City comes from behind and wins this game. That's going to be a really tough game because Kansas City's going to get up for that. You know it. No matter what, Kansas City's going to get up for that Buffalo game. And that's going to be a tough game for Buffalo. They might lose that one, but I'm going to take Buffalo to win it. All right, last one. And this one I definitely think we're going to have a mix on. I feel like. Dallas at Philadelphia. Philly's 5.5-point favorites.
I'll take the Eagles.
Eagles to win? Thank you.
I'll take the Eagles to win and cover. Yep.
Win and cover. Wow, okay. Ryan.
Jeez. This one's tough because we don't know who's playing quarterback for the Cowboys right now.
It's Cooper Rush until further notice. Come on now.
Come
on now. They're not starting Dak right now. No way.
Dak wants to be back for that game.
I don't care what Dak wants. He ain't playing.
5.5 for me is a lot against that defense. That ball just hit him in the head.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire just took one to the helmet.
I'm going to take Philly to win, Dallas to cover.
Okay. Philly to win, Dallas to cover. Got it. I'm taking Dallas to win. I think Philly's due to lose a game. I don't think they played great in Arizona last weekend. They did what they had to do to win. I'll give them that. They did what they had to do to win. I think Dallas's defense is really good. Like, I think Dallas might have the number 1 or the number 2 defense in the league. Micah Parsons looks like, the way Ryan talks up and slurps Aaron Donald, I think Micah Parsons is 3 times the player. I don't know if you agree, Zach, but I think Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in the league right now. And he's unblockable. He's hard to stop. And I like what they've got in Dallas. I'm going to take Dallas to win this game. Outright.
Can I just say for the record, I was begging for the Minnesota Vikings to take Micah Parsons. Begging. I wanted him so badly. I loved him in college. He's such a good player. If they win, it's going to be because of their defense. I just don't think that they can keep up with Philadelphia's offense right now.
I think Dallas's defense is legit. They're really good. All right, there's our prediction segment. We'll keep an eye on it this week. There's not a lot of change. We're going to have pretty similar records at the end of the week, maybe a couple of slight changes here and there. All right, and let's go to the Eliminator before the Power Rankings. Eliminator this week, there's an obvious candidate with Carolina, but I'm also thinking we might need to dabble into the AFC a little bit. We'll see if the AFC nominations are enough to offset what we've seen in Carolina today. I'll open the door. I'll open the door up, Ryan. If you want to throw a team out, go ahead. Let's talk about it.
We have to talk about the Detroit Lions, right? They got shelled by New England in a third-string quarterback. Not saying that he's not a decent quarterback.
Bailey Zappi. They're going to the playoffs with Bailey Zappi.
But the Lions look like what little hope they had that this thing might come together. The wheels have kind of come apart on this. They're in a conference where it's a little top heavy. You might have a chance to get back to the bubble, but they don't look like they're capable of getting there at all. I'm going to submit the Detroit Lions.
Okay, Zach.
I will say the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are on. They made a quarterback change. They got absolutely throttled, and I believe they are 3 games back already of their division. Mm-hmm. And it's an AFC team. I think we've done that to ourselves in the past where we get too heavy in one conference too early.
I do get concerned about that. Yep. If we said Pittsburgh, Ryan, and we went with that because I do think we need to get an AFC team in here. We've done 3 NFC teams and 1 AFC team. Again, to recap, we've eliminated the Falcons, the Seahawks, and the Cobra Commanders on the NFC side. We've eliminated the Houston Texans on the AFC side. Is Pittsburgh's situation dire enough to overlook Carolina for 1 week, give Carolina and Detroit a stay of execution until next week? Because I think Carolina's going to be there. We're definitely going to be eliminating Carolina. But maybe it's worth taking a look at the coach for 1 week and seeing what they do with a different play caller. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Let's ask these questions then first. Can they win their division?
Carolina?
No, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, no. They're not better than Baltimore. They're not better than Cincinnati. They're not better than Cleveland.
Nope. Is there a possibility they could grab a wild card spot?
No, I don't think so, because you saw, like, if you're looking at the AFC East, you still have Miami, New York Giants, or Buffalo, Miami, Jets, and the Patriots. All 4 of those teams are better.
Right now,
I'd say no, and I think the AFC is better than the NFC.
I agree.
You could make an argument for a lot of teams at the 7 spot. I don't know that I see that in the AFC.
Right now, looking at the standings, the results of this Monday night game pending, they are currently the absolute bottom of the AFC. They are 1-4.
Yeah. And there's still hope. And there is still hope for Carolina at 1-4. There really isn't, but I mean, like, they can beat Atlanta. Like, Atlanta's plucky, actually a lot pluckier than we thought, but we still don't think they're good. The Saints aren't good, and the Bucks are vulnerable, right? So they can win a couple of those games, right? Like, we have to think if a different play caller comes in. I mean, but we can at least push them a week and at least say that, right?
I just think it doesn't do any good to fire your coach midseason. So that's the only argument I'll make for Carolina. You've never seen a coach come in mid-season and I don't think go to the playoffs. I don't think that's ever happened.
Which is weird because it happens all the time in other sports.
Yeah.
Baseball especially, like Toronto this year.
Phillies.
Yeah, the Phillies.
I don't think that in football, I don't think that's a recipe for success.
Basketball, hockey all the time.
I'm good on waiting on Carolina if we want to go with Pittsburgh, because I think Pittsburgh has a worse chance than Carolina.
Yeah, I'm with you on Pittsburgh, only because, like, you can't go back to Trubisky now. Like, you kind of have to ride the Kenny Pickett train here, and I don't know if that's a good thing. And, you know, they have some pieces that you like, but if they sustain any injuries, you know, a Minka Fitzpatrick goes down or a Najee Harris goes down, I mean, that's going to be the end of the line. They're looking at 3-4 wins total. I mean, I think that's where they're at right now. I don't see them getting back in it. I think I'm okay eliminating Pittsburgh. Are we all agreeing?
Yep.
All right, Pittsburgh, tribe has spoken. Time for you to go. All right, lastly, power rankings. This game, gosh, dang it. It could change my power rankings, so I don't know. Do we do this? Do we save power rankings? Or do we fire it anyway? Do it anyway?
Let's fire it anyway.
All right, here we go. Number 5.
Make a hot take, Tim.
All right, number 5.
Who's up first?
I'll take it first, because here's what I'll do. If the Chiefs, I'm gonna create this power ranking as if the Chiefs lose.
Okay.
Here we go. Number 5. If the Chiefs lose, I'm going to have the Minnesota Vikings at 5. 4-1. They've already got 3 wins in the division. Yes, they're all at home. I understand that. But they are 3 wins already in the division and 4 wins into the conference. Those are good to have in your pocket late in the season. I'm not saying they're going to stay there, but if you're just asking me to make a call today, that's the call I'm going with. I'll take the Vikings at 5. That's if the Chiefs lose this game. Thank you. And Travis Kelce just scored, as I said that. Thank you.
Wow, you're way behind.
Okay, I'm way behind. Sorry.
I've got the Cowboys. You guys talked me into it. I thought about the Giants, but I've got the Cowboys here.
And I think the Cowboys are better than the Giants.
Well, they beat them.
Yep, they did beat them. And they beat them pretty soundly. Ryan, number 5.
I wanted to say the Minnesota Vikings here because they're 4-1 and they're 4-1. However, there is a team I think that is not 4-1 but is good enough to put on this list, and I'm going to put the San Francisco 49ers here.
Oh, yeah, they're getting some – a lot of people loving them the last couple of weeks.
That defense might be the next best after Dallas's and Phillies, I think. They are flying around the ball. They're doing things the right way. They're just playing good football. So I'm gonna put San Francisco here, and if Minnesota wins next week, maybe they'll sneak into my rank.
They looked more explosive and dynamic this past week against Carolina. Now, granted, that's Carolina. Maybe they had checked out on the coach, but it was San Francisco's best performance outside of their dominant performance against LA as well. Number 4, I have Dallas. I have Dallas at 4. So I'm with you there, Zach. I think Dallas is really good. I think their defense is the best in the league. Micah Parsons is the defensive MVP. And Cooper Rush, I mean, he didn't have to do a lot here, but you know what Cooper Rush has done, though? It has told Kellen Moore, it has made Kellen Moore a better offensive coordinator. Like, if you look at their balance in the 4 weeks, like, they are not 70-30 like they were with Dak passing. They're 50-50, 51. This last game, they were 60-40 running the ball. So, like, he's decided to, like, get back to balance, get back to including everybody in the offense, and I think that might long-term make him a better OC. I think it's done wonders for them, and they're clearly playing good football, and they're starting to rack up some pretty nice wins. On the road at LA is a nice win. On the road at New York's a nice win. If you go out on the road and beat Philly, you got a lot to feel good about if you get to 5-1. So I got Dallas right here.
I have Baltimore.
Baltimore is at 4.
Baltimore moves up a spot for me from last week up to 4.
I like that pick as well. I like that one. Ryan?
I'm putting the Dallas Cowboys at 4 for the same reasons Tim did. Their defense is incredible. I'd like to see more out of them offensively. I felt like they kind of won in spite of the quarterback this week, but I can't fault them for winning. So I'm going to put them at 4.
Number 3, I've got the Baltimore Ravens. I have the 3. They would move up to the 3 spot if Kansas City loses. Baltimore to me is the most is really a dangerous team to play. I don't think you want to play them at any time in the playoffs or anything. They've got a good, smart coach. They've got a quarterback that's really hard to defend and deal with. The running game is getting better. Mark Andrews is a real creature at tight end. Like, he's really tough to deal with. They've got some guys. I like Baltimore a lot at the 3 spot. I think they're really, really good. Number 3, Zach.
I think you're wrong, Tim. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game, and so I have them at 3.
Okay. Very good.
I think the Raiders are moving backwards right now, and it's only a matter of time. The Chiefs might be in the lead before we go off the air.
If the Chiefs win, I have the Chiefs in my top 5. They'll stay in my 5 because they've been in my 5 since day 1. If the Chiefs win, they'll stay there. This would be a bad loss if they lost to the Raiders, but if they win, they'll stay in the 5 for sure. Ryan, you're 3.
I think they'll be in the lead before we go off the air.
Ooh, okay. You'll keep us updated on that before we head out. Deal. Go ahead, Ryan.
My number 3 team is the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep. Ravens are good?
They stay in my top 5.
Number 2, I'm going to stay with the Philadelphia Eagles at number 2. I didn't love this win against Arizona. Now, granted, it's on the road. Anytime you can win on the road, it's good. They're 5-0. They got nothing to apologize for. I thought Jalen Hurts, again, was just fine. That Arizona team is ratty as hell, though. Like, that is not a good Arizona team. Kyler Murray is not good. I liked his Hillary Clinton pantsuit that he wore to the game. I thought that was interesting. If you haven't had a chance to see that, Google that, and you wonder why they're not winning football games. I don't think Kingsbury's a good coach. Like, I just, I'm out on that Arizona game, and that's why I'm a little disappointed that Philly didn't just blow them out of the water and end that thing quickly. So they're still 2 for me. They're really good. I think they're vulnerable this week against Dallas, but I like what they're doing. I like Philly. Number 2. Go ahead, Zach.
I still have the Bills at number 2. I disagreed with you last week, and I'll disagree with you again. They're 5-0, right? The Eagles are 5-0, and the Bills looked impressive, but here's another penalty on the Raiders.
So you have the Eagles at number 1 then still. You're staying
Yeah, I got Eagles at 1 and Bills at 2.
Got it. Rhino?
I have the Eagles at 2 and the Bills at 1.
Okay. So I also have the Bills at 1. I think the Bills...
I want to reiterate that my rankings will not change regardless of the outcome of this game.
Right. So, Ryan, you have Philly at 2?
Yep. And Buffalo at 1.
So
I thought that
you flipped.
Yeah. You did flip.
Okay.
I thought Buffalo was just so impressive this week. I had two I know Pittsburgh isn't good. I'm aware of that. The defense is supposed to be at least okay. And to do what they did, how they did it was impressive, I thought. And I think they're just playing really good football. I think that you could honestly just flip a coin, 1A, 1B. I don't really differentiate between the two.
I still believe if Buffalo and Philly play 10 times, Buffalo wins 7 times. Like I really think Buffalo's that much better than Philly. But I think, again, you're right, though. Philly's got the undefeated record. They have nothing to apologize for. And I'll say this. If Philly beats Dallas this week, I would say that's a really impressive skin on the wall. And I would say 6-0, if you beat Dallas, you're going to be the number 1 team.
Yeah, I would agree.
Although Buffalo beating Kansas City on the road would be a pretty hot skin, too, though. So
I mean, we may end up having to debate that.
We might have to have 2 number 1s next week. I don't know. Monday. We got to figure it out. But so there's our 5.
Are they going to get a rough in the kicker here?
Yeah, well,
No.
It might be running into.
Okay.
Gentlemen, that's our pod for the week. It was a good one. Any last-minute thoughts before we head out and catch the rest of this game?
No, I don't think so.
You're on baby detail. The baby's rocking behind you, finally sleeping. Good work. Young Tim doing some good stuff back there. Oh, Kieran. Sorry, Kieran. Young Kieran. I thought we named him Tim. I forgot about that. We didn't do that at the last minute. You lied to me, but that's okay. It's fine. Not mad at you. And Zach, obviously the best to you as well this week. Good luck. I know you got another tough game coming up this weekend. Hope the guys play well. And again, rave reviews from the Anoka coaching staff on your guys' broadcasting abilities. Well done. You hit it. Out of the park. I want to thank everybody for listening this week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, podbean.com. You can find us there, timpodcast.podbean.com. And also send me an email if you'd like at timpodcast1@yahoo.com. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Tim Anderson. You can find me on Twitter at TimAndersonPod. All of that is all we got for today. So hope you enjoyed it. For Zach, for Ryan, this is Tim saying keep your head up. We'll see you next time.